The void is where nothing appears to be happening in your life. Nothing seems to be working out. You might have a lot of anxiety about your next move, about where you're going to be living or your job, or it's a lot of uncertainty, and you're in it right now. You're in the uncertainty, you're in the unknown. You feel like you're being guided, like you're trusting your intuition, you're kind of following your intuitive urges, but you're not really sure. There's no guarantee it's going to work out. Let's dive into this void period that often happens to us when we are on an awakening journey. And it's happened to me a few times since 2018 when I had my big spiritual awakening. I want to share a couple things that might help you and understand just better about this void period. Okay, miracles can happen in this void period. And you might say, Trevor, right now I'm really anxious, nothing's working out, everything's kind of like I'm kind of just in limbo. And that is what the void is like. And I want to take you back 3 years ago when I was living in Phoenix. I had this goal that I wanted to live in Sedona, Arizona. It's a gorgeous place, very powerful place with the energy and the vortexes and the hikes and everything. And I had this apartment in Phoenix, and my lease was winding down. And I really felt like I could live in Sedona and make it happen in kind of like a different way. Sedona, Arizona, it's very hard to find housing. It's very expensive as well to rent an apartment or a house in Sedona. So what I was doing was I was driving up to Sedona from Phoenix about every week or so, and it's a 2-hour drive there and back from Phoenix to Sedona, so it's a pretty far drive, but I didn't mind it. I love the drive and everything. And my lease was winding down in Phoenix, and I had a roommate. He was moving to California, so he already had his plans, already has his new place set up in California. Me, on the other hand, the time was ticking. I had about a month and a half left on my lease, then about a month left, and then 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and I was driving up to Sedona every few weeks, about every week, and I was looking for places that I could work at, like bed and breakfast, different like kind of hotels and resorts. My goal was to find a place to work and to stay on site at that facility, at that resort or that B&B or whatever. And I had this really strong intuitive guidance, like I could make it happen. So I was going up there every week, going up there. I was asking for interviews, like applying to places for manager roles and property manager roles and all these different things. And one day I drove up there and I had this interview and it went really well. They were in West Sedona, I had the goal to be in West Sedona. There's like uptown Sedona, there's different parts of the town, but it's not really that important. I had this awesome interview and they actually offered me this little studio I could stay at for free. It was kind of on top of this one like kitchen kind of building where there's like they make food and stuff, and there was a little attic, little studio, and they told me that I could have this place for free. I could stay there for free and work like maybe 4 or 5 days a week as like a property manager. So it went great. I was talking to like the different people at the resort and the managers, and I left like shaking his hand. I was like, all right, I can't wait to start. And they're like, yeah, we'll send you the offer through email like tomorrow or this week, very soon. I was like, all right, sweet. So I went back to Phoenix. I drove home the 2 hours and I was playing music. I was like jamming along in my car. I was feeling so good. I was like, wow, I'm gonna be staying in Sedona, Arizona for free. Like that is crazy. And I was just driving home, just freaking vibing. And the next day I was checking my email, like waiting for this offer letter for this job and for I was gonna be able to stay for free. Through this job in Sedona, and I'm looking for my email, looking for it. I think a day went by, and I was getting a little nervous. And the next day, I got an email from the guy I just talked to the previous day, and I opened it up, and it says, "We're sorry to inform you that we will not be moving forward with this offer, and we apologize and best of luck." And I'm going, like literally at this point I have about a week and a half left on my lease in Phoenix. Okay, and I didn't have a lot of money. Here's the thing, I didn't have money to rent in Sedona with how much it costs and like a down payment and stuff, and I literally had like not much money. And I remember like my roommate, because he was going to California, he already had his plans, and he's looking at me like, Trevor, where are you gonna be in a week? Like, dude, you better figure it out. And this whole situation that I was in, it gave him anxiety. Like I could feel his energy. He was scared for me because I had no certain plans yet about where I was going to live. And I was very anxious. I was very kind of worried, but I also had this intuitive feeling still throughout this whole phase. I still felt like it's going to work out. And I was meditating a lot. I was asking for signs, and I think I was pulling some tarot cards, and I was like trying to figure out like what to do next, and I just kept following my intuition. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I drove back to Sedona, 2 hours again. Each way is 2 hours, but I drove back there, and I said, all right, I'm gonna try one last time. So I went up there. I reached out to a few more places. I had another interview with somebody, and this time I met somebody who we had a really good vibe. The person I met was like the full-time manager, and she was currently working 7 days a week, the whole week straight. And she wanted someone to come in and help her go from like working the full week to like working about half the week. So she wanted someone to kind of share the workload. And we're talking, we're sitting down on this couch in the lobby of this bed and breakfast, like hotel, little place, and we're talking for hours about like where we're from and spirituality and like what we're all into, like what we're into, different topics, and talking about aliens, all this kind of stuff, and we're vibing. And at the end, she says, I'm looking for a part-time manager. There's a little room. There's a downstairs room below the kitchen, kind of similar to the last one, but it was like just one little studio room. And she's like, no one's living there. It's open. If you can come on board and work part-time and help me out as a part-time property manager, you can live there for free. And I checked it out, and this was better than the first studio that I thought I had that fell through. This was better. A little bigger. It had a nice little outdoor table, outdoor area. You could walk down outside, and you can go out to like this water fountain, and it was just, it's Sedona. Sedona is just gorgeous, and it was better than the first one. And I was there with her. I made sure to write up a little agreement on paper, had her sign it, and the next week I brought a U-Haul up to Sedona from Phoenix, brought all my stuff up, and it worked out. And I ended up living in Sedona, Arizona for 6 months for free. And to me, it was kind of like a miracle. Even though I was feeling guided the whole time, I was following my intuition. Some might say it's a miracle. And it's almost like I had to go through that period of uncertainty. I had to not know what was next. It was almost like a test. I kind of feel, looking back, it was like a test. Because a lot of people in that spot, people probably get a new lease for their apartment or their house they're renting. They probably get the new lease like what, a month in advance or a few weeks in advance. Literally, I signed that paper with the manager for her to allow me to stay there for free. I signed that paper with her 5 days before my lease was up in Phoenix. And the whole time, like I just said a few times, I was following my heart. I was following myself. So the void is that period where you don't really have that thing to cling on to, that certainty. But if you're watching this video, especially if you're watching this video I think today's March 29th, April of next month, April of 26 coming up, I think is gonna be a month where if you're in this void period right now, just hang on there a little longer. Okay, hang in there. Because I'm not an astrology expert, but a lot of people are saying that this April, May coming up, things are going to be happening. Okay, it's time for us to step into our purpose, and we're going to be rewarded. If we've been doing the work, the healing work, we've been doing the work as far as sharing our gifts and adding value to people, we're going to get that in return. Okay, it is coming for you. So hang in there, my friend. Remember, the void is like a test where you have to have faith. And what does that even mean, have faith? Faith means having trust in the unseen. Believing in what's possible for you when there's no evidence with your senses to see it yet or to feel it yet, but in your heart you can feel it, right? Have faith, my friend. The void period happens to many of us on this spiritual journey, and if you just follow your intuition, ask for guidance, ask for signs, I promise you it'll work out, and you might even experience a miracle.